Good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting the March 13th, 2025 meeting of the Olentangy Board of Education. Mr. Jenkins, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Lester.
Here.
Dr. Dabrico.
Here.
Dr. Wallach.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Ms. Schreiber.
I'm here.
All right, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I don't believe that there are any amendments to the agenda. All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Mr. Jenkins?
Mr. Lester.
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico.
Yes.
Dr. Wallach.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber.
Yes.
All right, we have a very packed agenda here tonight, so I'm going to be very, very brief with the president's report. I just want to note, as we've said for the last few meetings, the state budget discussions are continuing to move forward. I know Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Meyer, and team have been talking with several legislators. We've been, continuing to work through that process. That's going to be a continuing issue for the next several months as the legislature works through this, and fair school funding remains a very, very big priority for this district. Every dollar that we get from the state is one less that we have to get from the local community. So as we've continued to say throughout this, we really encourage folks to be educated on the issues, to speak out to your legislators about it, and we'll continue to work on that. We've had a number of big events the past couple weeks. I know Mr. Meyer's going to talk about a lot of those in his report, so I'm not going to repeat it. But this is a very busy time of year as we're sort of heading into the home stretch. Right now we're smack dab in the middle of High School Musical season, which is always one of my favorite times as well. And just encourage everyone to get out, see as many of the performances that we have for our students, wonderful athletic events as well, and just soak up everything that the schools have to offer the community. So with that, any discussions from the board committees? I don't know that we've had any others since. Anything OSBA?
Upcoming at a spring conference, but no meeting since.
Sounds good. All right, well, with that, we'll head straight into our first presentation, Seeds of Change, Ms. Fury, and a whole bunch of other people. So look forward to hearing it.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to come and speak about our Seeds of Change Olentangy Professional Development course that we offer each year. This course is a truly authentic professional learning opportunity that we offer to our teachers and administrators throughout the district. And a couple of things about Seeds of Change. I have some individuals here with me tonight who are going to share about their projects. So I'm not going to take a ton of time because we want to hear about theirs, but a little bit of backstory on Seeds of Change. This is our 4th year that we have done Seeds of Change. Vince Titilio and I have been doing this for about 4 years now, and this year was our largest group yet. We've had over 40 individuals participate in the Seeds of Change course, where they were coming together with a kind of seed idea that they were excited to try in their classroom. It's something that they've been kind of thinking about doing but haven't had the opportunity or the space to try it. And Seeds of Change really gives them that place to dive into an interest or a passion that directly affects student learning and engagement. It's really, truly driven by teacher agency, inquiry, and collaboration. It's rooted in communities of practice and project-based learning, where teachers they come and they have a driving question, they'll dive into some research, and then they'll present on their findings. They may not have a full-fledged project that they finished, but it's really about that driving question, the data and the research that they've gathered, and then where they're going to go next with it. Some of our projects tonight, it was wonderful to hear about the various projects. Some of them, we have students who are collaborating and kind of developing pen pals with other students in another country through some of our digital resources. We have teachers who are doing voice and choice in their assessments. And so it really is just about empowering our educators to really empower our students. So just a little bit about the course. We have 3 meetings per year. We have our asynchronous kind of kickoff module where we really kind of give them the overview of what Seeds of Change is, and then we bring them all together where they share their ideas and they take part in some thinking routines where they're gathering feedback from colleagues around the district. That's the great thing about Seeds of Change is they're partnered up with individuals that they may not otherwise be able to collaborate and work with and learn and grow from if it weren't for this course. So they get that feedback, they kind of pose some questions, some sticking points, and get those ideas from their colleagues. And then we have these thought partner meetings, and we've actually expanded it because we had so many individuals this year. We actually have brought in other members of the curriculum team and instructional technology team to help support the individuals and provide them with kind of those experts in that area that relates to their project. And then they all kind of come together for this showcase event, which happened tonight, where they're really kind of just showcasing their learning from the year. So I'm going to turn it over to 2 of our participants to share their projects. We even have some students here. One of them rushed in from track practice, and they were able to join us. So we're super excited to hear about their projects and what Seeds of Change has meant to them. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Bosley, who is a teacher at Indian Springs.
Hi, good evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for allowing me to present. I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sharon Bosley. This is my first year with the district. It's my 7th year teaching. I taught at Columbus City in a charter school up on the northeast side. But I'm very excited and grateful to be here. One of my driving factors of wanting to be in Olentangy was being able to grow as a professional. So being able to take a course like Seeds of Change was really important to me, and really has allowed me to dive into some things as a teacher I otherwise wouldn't. So I'm a traveling art teacher for the district. I have the privilege to teach first grade art across 3 different school buildings, and my home base is Indian Springs. So I also teach kindergarten there. And so my project was based on developing a literacy curriculum and a visual arts curriculum combined. So taking read aloud books and reading them to students, asking comprehension questions, putting text in front of them, really trying to just build a passion for reading and get more text in front of them, and then build a visual arts project out of that. I've been at districts before where kids really struggle to read and have seen how that has adverse effects in all the other subject areas that they try to learn in. And so even just being able to work with kindergarten students and develop a love for reading and put things in front of them and ask them questions and work on comprehension, I think is really fun, and the kids love it. The projects that you're seeing on the slide here are Flat Cat and then the Color Monster. So the Flat Cat is really fun. It's kind of inspired by Flat Stanley, if you're familiar with that. So they made a cat. You'll see these are some of my kids. They took their cats out on adventures, and then they brought the photos back and got to share with their classmates where they took them and all the fun things they did. And then the Color Monster is another great book that just ties in emotion and feelings and things like that, and they made great connections with Inside Out, and so just being able to really develop a fun curriculum, but also engage with other things that are happening in the building and other things that are happening with their teachers. So I love the ability to just be able to really cross-connect things that they're doing and enforce more learning across the board. So it's kind of an ongoing project that will just continue as I continue to teach. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Anthony Paletta. I'm one of the assistant principals over at Liberty High School, and this is my first year within the district, and I'm having a wonderful year, learning a lot, and getting to work with some awesome students that are, well, already right behind me. So I was like, oh, there you are. So our project for Seeds of Change, this was a really cool opportunity, a really great opportunity to really take our PBIS initiative and bring it to life. So within the first week or two of being on the job at Liberty High School, these students right here came to my office and said they had an idea to put on a TED Talk at Liberty High School. And I was assigned the PBIS initiative, and I said, well, as long as we can do it with our theme to be respectful, engaged, and inclusive. And so from there, this event kind of took off, And we made it 100% student-driven, student initiative. We have 6 students that will speak this Tuesday, and we have 3 staff members that will be giving their speeches or their talks on our PBIS initiative of being respectful, engaged, and inclusive. And I'm really excited because we have a wide range of speaking events or speaking topics. And it's just a great way for our school to build a sense of community, belonging, and really push what we believe at Liberty High School. And our PBIS initiative doesn't mean anything unless our students take ownership of it. And so that's why I was really excited that our TEDx event will allow it to bring to life. So enough about me speaking. I'm going to let our students come on up and talk a little bit about it.
Hello, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak here. My name is Augustine Martinez, and I'm a junior at Olentangy Liberty High School. And the number one reason why I wanted to take on this event was, as a student council officer at Olentangy Liberty, I really wanted to create a positive culture inside of Olentangy Liberty and bring my peers together. And I feel like the number one thing that I've learned throughout this entire project is the amount of connections that you don't see at first, but when you try to dive deeper and ask questions, there really are so many, whether that be cutting wooden letters of TED out for our stage, or even just making these t-shirts. There's so many opportunities that you don't realize, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. My name is William Wayne. I'm a junior at Olentangy Liberty High School. And so one of the key reasons I wanted to be a part of this was that I think it's necessary to build a connection between students, adults, and staff members. And so really throughout this process, it's been inspiring to see, teachers being in the same position as students, which is something I don't think we see often, but seeing the process of, teachers helping students, students helping teachers is really inspiring. I think that's something I want to, keep doing throughout this event and in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you for letting us present here. I'm Michelle. I'm a junior at Liberty as well, and I'm not as good-hearted as Will and Augustine, and I kind of just did this because as a student, I feel like we aren't the most represented voice at Liberty. I think a lot of you are familiar with One Community, which is happening this Saturday, and I think that I really took inspiration from that event, and also I just wanted to apply it locally to our school and possibly bring, like Mr. Paletta said, the PBIS initiative and facets of Liberty culture onto a global stage, which TEDx provides. So thank you all.
The last thing I was going to say, our event is this Tuesday from 6 to 8:30. We hope to see you there.
Thank you.
So those are just a couple of the projects that we had tonight at our Seeds of Change showcase event. A couple of the other projects, we have some repeaters who've been with us for the entire 4 years that we've been doing it, and they're continuing to build upon their projects. And it's really all about involving students and creating that sense of engagement for all of our students. And we know that when we provide opportunities for teachers to grow, ultimately our students benefit. So any questions?
You look like you have a question.
I don't want to. Okay, I don't want to put any of you students on the spot. Like if nobody wants to answer this, you can actually just be like, we decline, which would be fine. But I guess in the world of education, it's like alphabet soup, and there's a million bajillion acronyms, and so we're talking about PBIS. And I'm just going to kind of play devil's advocate and act like maybe there are people in the audience or people watching from home or listening later who are like, what is PBIS? I see that you say respectful, engaged, inclusive. That sounds lovely, but what's PBIS? Do any of you? I mean, you could just. We can talk about what the acronym means, but in your own words, not necessarily just defining the positive behavior. Sorry. Would any of you like to speak to that, or you can just say no?
Sorry.
I like to hear it in students' own words.
Okay, from a student perspective, I think as students, we're kind of exposed to it everywhere. We see these blaring banners at school that just say respect, engagement, inclusivity. But specifically at Liberty, we have a designated committee for PBIS. And I don't know if you guys know this, but compared to other schools, Liberty is really lacking in the school spirit aspect. Take, for example, Berlin and Orange, they have a lot of more events. So I think PBIS for students is a way to kind of unify our school into, even if it's 3 words, into a community, and also just to enhance our school spirit. So what I take away from it is just condensing what we are, Liberty, into a community or into a motto or a mantra like REI.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm sorry, are you a staff member or are you?
Plant.
Well, thank you for working in Olentangy. These are high school kids. Fantastic.
And I'll just note, I recall a couple coming to the Mental Health Committee last fall, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that's gone on to continue to present, to build upon this idea, right? When we talked 6 months ago, 5 months ago, it's a little while ago, you're still sort of coming up with exactly how you wanted to make it work, and I really appreciate just the continued thoughtfulness around building a positive culture and using it that way to do it. I mean, a lot of times when this stuff works best, it's where it's actually, there's input and there's discussion about it. It's not just sort of thrust upon you. You have that idea that you come up with. So thank you for all the work, and thank you so much for all the work to inspire. I'm sad my son is now out of Indian Springs, but I really appreciate the cool initiatives to make them more excited about learning. That's great. So good.
Mr. Lester, I think that the thing that's exciting is that, you know, you're taking these lessons you learn in high school about changing culture, and people in charge don't always do a great job of setting up a culture that supports our goals. So thank you for doing that, because we're depending on you to do things a little bit better maybe sometimes than we do. So thank you for being student leaders and representing your school, your family, and the west side of Delaware County so well. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so we do so much more clapping now, it's great. So we're going to move on to Dr. Blackley with the Flourish Here initiative. So.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us tonight. My entire team, we're so excited to share with you the district's strategic approach to elevating the Olentangy student experience. As you know, our district mission is a very broad and generalized goal to facilitate maximum learning for all students. And the mission is framed in the Portrait of a Learner attributes. And it also includes strategic academic priorities, such as alleviating barriers to learning, promoting a culture of inclusive excellence, and ensuring mastery of learning. Well, the work of the academic team has been to bring this district mission, this very global, large district mission, to life in the classroom for our students. And the conduit through which we move from that very global, broad district goal to actionable academic goals is through what we call our academic continuous improvement plan. And a lot of this plan includes what I would call typical academic goals, centered on mastery of learning and pretty easily measured through quantitative ways. But tonight, we would actually like to showcase an academic goal that is not focused overtly on mastery, but focused on student engagement, connection, and ownership with their learning.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to kind of pick up that conversation from there. And really, when we think about that particular goal, the way we frame that is elevating the student experience. That's how I try to explain to people, maybe not in education, what we're doing here. The best part is you just saw two really wonderful examples of staff elevating the student experience. So when we talk about the student experience, it refers to how students engage in, connect to, and take ownership of their learning. We feel like that the quality of that experience is what prepares them for a meaningful future. Sure, academics are really important, but academics alone, it's not enough for the future. We've all agreed upon that. So when we say student experience, we mean that whole package. And the three items that we're leveraging in our work and in these projects and helping teachers understand, there's kind of three doorways we're trying to invite people into. One is to increase the amount of student feedback you're receiving, and that is typical feedback in the classroom sometimes, but this is also through just asking students opinions. How would you do things? Letting them drive. I mean, they are very, very capable at doing this work. It's almost getting out of their way a little bit when we think about this and let them be who they are and contribute the great things they have.
The second one is educational opportunities. This can look a lot of different ways, but we have great opportunities, but we're trying to elevate those opportunities. So one, there are more. Two, people know what they are. And three, that students are kind of the drivers of what the opportunities are in the district. And then lastly, student engagement, which if you read or read about education, you hear a lot about the challenges with student engagement, particularly in the world today. And that's an area that our teachers are familiar with, but we're really trying to use relevancy and authenticity in the classroom to engage our students. We know that if we can get them hooked into the learning through their passions, through what they care about, they're going to take it much, much further. So there's a lot of different ways to think about the experience, but these are the three that we're going to focus on tonight, and we're going to share some examples in the rest of the presentation of specific projects, initiatives that are happening right now that are looking at elevating the student experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Thank you, Vince. So I'm going to start off with our student experience and talk a little bit about our student experience surveys. So from a strategic lens, right, it's easy to measure mastery of content achievement. However, it's not easy to understand the development of portrait of a learner attributes. And one of the questions that our team continues to ask ourselves is, are our kids flourishing here in Olentangy? So with the help of Director Jeanette Kenny, who is now Mrs. Brunswick, and in collaboration with the students from our Mr. Myers Superintendent's Advisory Council, we actually revised the student exit survey that previously was given in grades 5, 8, and 12. So the new student experience survey that went out yesterday, it assesses the development of the portrait of a learner attributes as well as the district's effectiveness in alleviating barriers to learning. So the way we rewrote that survey and the questions we're asking, it's giving us feedback. Additionally, we are giving the survey to all students in grades 5 through 12. Grade 5 and then 9 through 12 went out yesterday, and then the first week of May, the middle school students will receive the survey. And we're very excited because it does provide us with feedback to help us better understand their student experience from their lens. So as Vince said, tonight we're going to couch our presentation in three things, right? Student experience, educational opportunities, and student engagement. So I'd like to introduce Shane Shove, our Assistant Director of Intermediate Curriculum, and he's going to talk to you about some of the educational opportunities we have for students.
Thanks, Michelle. I've got some fun things to look at, too, while I talk at you. So this is from Orange Middle School. I'll explain what we're looking at here in a second, too. So this is an example we wanted to highlight.
Thank you.
Some student work. Always fun. Thank you. Oh, boy. Can't do that. So what you see in front of you is a culmination of work of a concept, a Japanese concept called ikigai, and it's really about exploring students' purpose. And we believe strongly that can start in younger grades, especially in middle school, where we know students are searching for those identities, trying to figure out who they are, who they want to be, and we know that the one question they do not like is, what do you want to be when you grow up? So when we think about that differently, the process of ikigai asks students, what do you like to do, and what are you good at? What then can you be paid for? And finally, in our opinion, the most important, how does this impact the world? How can you change the world with that? So when students start to consider those four areas and how are we going to make the world better, you get to the center of who they truly are. So asking students to do this activity, this exercise, which our administrators at Orange Middle did with all grade levels, they get kids to start to see what they value, what they care about, and we know that's the first step in engagement. They could care less about my American history class I used to teach if I don't know who they are, right? That engagement piece is so critical. So one of the other things that we want to highlight with this is once students start to think about their role in the next 6 to 12 or however long they want to be in school, as they start to think about that, we really want them to consider what those decision points are for them. And so this year we started a middle school course book committee. We had representation from each of the 6 middle schools, counselors, administrators, to really look at consistency across the district for our students, especially around unified arts courses. So Aileen Miracle has done an awesome job, as many of our teachers have, making sure that we're offering these opportunities to students. And we also want to start to align those opportunities with the high school so that students start to see how what I'm learning now matters or can contribute to that passion that I have later on, so they can get to high school and start to make even more decisions there. Some opportunities we have at the middle school for elevating that opportunity is the partnerships that we have with many of our Bridge Ed partners, as well as the DACC. This year, we offered a trip to the DACC for all 8th grade students that were interested, which we're super excited about. So we are heading to DACC next week, and then once again in April. So they carved out 2 dates for us since we have such a large group of 8th graders that are interested in exploring what those options are. And then through the partnership, as I said, with Bridge Ed, we've had many school visits from Robertson Construction, Columbus State, Wexner Medical Center, some really great things that have happened to introduce students into what's next. So yes, school's important. Yes, we care about American history and all these other things, but where do you fit into that mix, and what is it that you want to do? So with that, we hope that we can get them into a place come freshman year where they're excited about their learning and they see their own personal goals unfold throughout the school day. So I'll introduce Dr. Chris Sander to talk about the high school opportunities.
Thank you, Shane. So obviously the opportunities that most of you are familiar with that kids have to kind of enhance their experience or elevate their experience include College Credit Plus, partnership with Delaware Area Career Center where they can engage in specific career pathways, and our advanced placement courses. All of those are terms that we're very familiar with and kind of talk about those acronyms that we were referencing earlier. Elevated opportunities also exist, however, through our career pathways that we have right here in Olentangy. So when you think about the definition of a career pathway, you are looking at programming that aligns coursework to career fields that are in demand by the local economy. So our programs include the 4 that you can see on those bullets there. And in addition to the courses they are enrolled in, they are also paired with a career technical student organization. So if you think about your presentation you had from our DECA students most recently, those students talked a little bit about their experience, shared their projects with you, and when I reference a CTSO, Career Technical Student Organization, that's what we're talking about, and they are a very big part of our career pathways. Within Olentangy, we have our Teacher Academy, which is housed at the, yep, I just,
That's a
Thanks.
rental.
I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Teacher Academy, which is housed at Olentangy Academy. A lot of times we hear our community members referring that as the STEM building, but our Teacher Academy is housed there as well. And through our work this year, we have increased enrollment in Teacher Academy by 57%, and our students have 2 different opportunities to attend, 2 different times of days that they can attend. So we're just really trying to promote that programming, increase opportunities for awareness. We have Sunday Weekly did a lot of work with having students pair, give an invitation to a friend and do things like that where we can really expose our community, our school community, to the opportunities that are there. Also housed at Olentangy Academy is the engineering program. That is a 4-course pathway that begins in 9th grade. There is a decision point, Shane referenced that earlier, at the end of the 10th grade where they can continue on through the biomedical, biotechnology academy, or stay in engineering. We are enhancing those biotechnical technology opportunities through providing college credit opportunities, and our teachers are visiting 2 different school districts, Westerville and Dublin, over the next 3 weeks to look at their programming to make sure that we're in line with other opportunities that students have and see if we can enhance those in any other ways. And then, as I mentioned, our marketing program, our DECA Kids, that is housed at all 4 comprehensive high schools. And in addition to that, Shane referenced the middle school course book. Well, the high school course book's been around for a long time, 72 pages worth currently. But we are also working from that lens to make sure that our opportunities are articulated very clearly in that course book, that they are consistent across all of our high schools, and that the courses we have are what our kids want to take. So we worked with our Family Consumer Science department, our business department, our world language department, and we're currently working with our ELA teachers to really elevate the opportunities that students have and make sure our courses are aligned to their interests. So, thank you.
Oh, I got it. It's up here. All right, one last thing we want to share. We have so much to share, I know. We really want to tell you all about this stuff. So another opportunity that I have that I'm extremely passionate about this group, but I think it's an awesome thing to know that we're part of. So building capacity for student agency. This is a grant that we had the opportunity to join into last year, funded by the Martha Holdens Jennings Foundation, which does great work in funding really, really innovative projects. And essentially, we're part of a cohort. Our cohort includes Upper Arlington and Warren local schools down in Southern Ohio, which is kind of cool to have different perspectives. But there's about 3 cohorts now, about 12 to 15 school districts across Ohio who are looking at ways to enhance student agency. And agency is a little bit of a buzzword. We've talked about it before, but we really look at this as enhancing the student experience. How do we provide students with autonomy, freedom, direction, the ability to influence their learning? And through this, we have sort of 10 staff members, teachers, administrators, a couple other people from central office who are attending this. And just a couple things I want to share that has happened because of the grant. Number one, last Sunday and Monday of this week, we were in Granville for the Student Power Summit. The Student Power Summit is a national conference focused on, obviously, empowering students. This year, they held it in Granville, and Granville schools hosted it. We had 2 teachers present there from the grant, Hannah Rust from Liberty High School and Andrea Vasilius from Orange High School, both who are exploring and interested in different ways of assessing and providing students with feedback, working on a more mastery-based system in their classroom, and really, truly handing back the decision-making to their students in terms of how they learn. They also brought 7 students with them who spoke for a very long time. People were very interested in what the students thought about this experience because it's a very different classroom than maybe many people grew up in. After the session, multiple people came up as I was kind of lingering around, asking a lot of questions. Even a representative from ODW came up asking more questions about how can we connect, districts wanting to come visit our teachers and the work they're doing. So super proud of them and the students who are there. The professional development that we're getting from this grant, every time we go to a session, we're being exposed to national experts in the field, researchers around agency, and school districts that have been doing this work in a really focused way for longer than we have. And then we're bringing that back to our buildings here in Olentangy. The third one, student focus groups. This is a really, really exciting project. The grant funds a few student focus groups in each of our high schools for the last 2 years, and now we're starting to expand that process a bit. A group called the Human Restoration Project comes out and facilitates conversation with our students. They provide us with a transcript, they tell us the themes, they actually have an app where we can hit and it gives the student actually saying the moment that they were talking about in the survey. On the right, I just thought this was interesting this year. This is pretty similar to last year. They asked the students what is one word that describes school. And the winner again this year was competitive. And I think that's something we need to think about, right? That's a good thing in a lot of ways, but also when you read into the rest of the stuff, there's some other things that come along with a competitive student experience. So we have to find that balance, but it's really trying to have the kids tell us what the experience is and have us adjust and work with them on this. And then as Dr. Sander talked about the ELA teachers who are actually in this room today, high school, they've been really inspired as a district by this work, and they're making some revisions to their curriculum and vision for the high school curriculum that is really rooted in student choice, autonomy, and agency. So the grant has been a really, I feel like, a good thing for us to be involved in because it's getting us out and about and networking a bit more, but we're really bringing those things back to Olentangy and starting to see them really flourish in our classrooms. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Blackley to wrap it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince. And thank you for your time and allowing us to share this. I mean, not that, you know, perusing literacy curriculums isn't fun, but what really motivates this group and really excites us about the work that we do on a daily basis and getting our mission down to this student level, this this is the work that we are just so proud of, and to personalize our learning for kids, to expand those opportunities, and foster student agency. We're truly elevating the student experience. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, Vince, real quick question, if I'm not mistaken, but tell me if I'm wrong on this, the summit.
Yep.
Granville Schools was also didn't they open up their doors to almost like a little field trip? Did anybody from,
Yep, Shane.
oh, how was it?
Yeah. Jen, you want to come up? Yeah. I got a chance to go to the middle school,
Okay.
which is super cool, and hear from 7th graders that were in an experiential learning mastermind. That's what the course is called. It's a semester course or a year-long course where it's an action research project. And so all of these students had done some sort of service learning project. And it's interesting, again, you have Ikigai in front of you. When you ask most middle school, kids, what do you like? Sports. Okay, great. These kids that liked sports found ways to connect that to a service project. They raised money with the Kiwanis organization in Granville. They did so many really amazing things that were beyond themselves, which is exactly what we're hoping for. So it was a great experience.
So I was able to visit the intermediate school, and they are doing various student-driven learning projects throughout. Some of them stem from issues that they've had in the building. So they have what they call the NFL commissioners, because they were having some issues at recess with kids playing football. And so a group of students, they were kind of told, no more football at recess. And so a group of students approached the building principal and was like, here's what we want to do to solve the problem. And it was about making sure that the experience was inclusive to everyone who wanted to play. They had some issues in the bathroom with graffiti and things like that. And so a group of girls came and said, here's how we want to fix this. They had the SLC students were out taking a walk one day, and trash was overflowing in the dumpsters, and it was some good things that they were questioning, why they were throwing them away. So then they started creating and kind of coming up with ideas for how they could repurpose these pieces of material that were in the dumpster in the buildings. And she's been tracking her data from her data from her assessments and things, and her scores in that SLC classroom have just gone through the roof because she's taking what the students want to do and pulling her standards in where she can. So it was a really phenomenal experience to be a part of, and to hear how the students are owning their learning and helping to solve problems around the school.
Thank you.
The longer they let me hang around, the more I'm convinced that if we listen to our students, they'll tell us how to motivate them, and they'll tell us how to teach them. And this is a great example of that. You started with listening to them to define the student experience. So this is really cool, and I appreciate your hard work on this. This doesn't just come together, so thank you for doing this.
We talk a lot about caring. First, it's making sure they know they're cared for. If they're not listened to, they're not cared for, right? It's as simple as that. You don't connect with someone that's not listening to you. And it doesn't mean that we just do whatever the kids say, recess for every period. But if you're actually listening and engaging them and treating them, seriously, they have serious thoughts, because they do, right? That leads to a lot of understanding of what makes it a better educational environment, and it teaches them what they understand more about themselves. We see so many people at college or other things, they are just sort of spiraling around because they don't know what they're good at. They don't know what they want to do. And promoting this sort of understanding early on about who I am, what I'm good at, what I like to do, that makes a big, big difference in them. I also want to personally engage with whoever this student was, who has kindness and compassion and humor and food, which I feel is very, very, very good.
And I'll collect those from you.
I thought we got them.
I know.
I know. You'd have to ask. I really like the one that said B on there too.
That's
That's
great. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. So we are now moving on to Mr. Gordon in Energy Management.
Good evening. As usual, this report will look very similar. The beginning part of the format is what we've covered before. I've made some changes. It's a good news, bad news situation. What we can control on our energy costs, we're still controlling well. At the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing with costs and the increases that we're going to be experiencing based on factors that are outside of our control. This is similar slide to what you've seen. We actually shortened it from 2022, and the base year previously was considered 2013. We've now moved Berlin High School and Shell Meadows into this comparison. We haven't added Peach Blow Crossing or Berlin Middle School yet. So the base year is the base year of 2013 plus the first year of each of those new schools. As we continue to add new schools, we'll adjust that base year that way. So as you can see, we continue to perform well by using less energy and controlling that as compared to where we were back in 2013. If we were still operating the way that we were today, we would have significantly more cost. Same thing on the gas side. You can see we've continued to drop from 2022 down. Now, this is the end with these slides. The way we're doing it next year, it won't impact, but this is the end of the COVID impact on this, because as we came back for the first 2 years after COVID, we were bringing in more outside air. So when it's hotter out, you're treating that air more to make it cooler, and vice versa when you're heating. So you see that in the gas and why 2022 was so high, and then we continue to drop down and work our way back down to where we were pre-COVID. Total avoidance since our last levy in 2020, $5.8 million. See that the majority of that being on the electric side, where we can control that, and we do continue to hedge our gas and participate in the MEC or Meta now purchasing consortium for both gas and electric. This is Energy Star. We've talked about Energy Star before. I've circled some parts here, and basically this is, in this case here, this is Heritage Elementary School. We're performing better than 96% of like buildings or school buildings that are in Energy Star. As a district, we're performing better than 92%. So we're continuing to perform well as compared to other commercial buildings and school buildings that have their scores in Energy Star. The bad news. So everybody's hearing about the data centers, and there's been a lot of articles recently on the increased electricity required for those data centers. You see this graph to the left there is the blue is 2022, 2023, summer peak, and then where they're predicting we're going to need to be in Central Ohio for the data centers, adjusting for that. And the downside to that is there's a rider, capacity charges, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but they put on, and that is an incentive that we pay for us prior to the data center adjustment there, but we pay anytime, we need the wholesale market to provide enough electricity to reach whatever peak we would ever be at. So they are incentivized beyond the cost of the wholesale price with a capacity charge for the infrastructure to produce more electricity. And since there's more electricity being required for the data centers, that capacity, the cost to build that capacity out is going up, and we're all paying for that. We're paying for it as a school district. We'll pay for it in our houses as well as that continues to work its way down. So sorry to deliver that bad news, but it's not just the schools. It's going to hit us at home as well. You see the graph there on the left side of the screen. Again, that blue is the wholesale market. The red is the actual pay, what we pay on total. There's a lot of charge in between there, but the majority of that's the capacity charge. The wholesale market is where we've been locked into a contract, and we've continued to use the consortium power, buying power, to push that price down. Back in 2015, 2014, the contract had us at about 5.5 cents. We were able, with the consortium and where the rates were at that time, to drive that down to get a better contract the next 3 years. And then the last 3 years, July of 2022 to 25, we were locked in at 3.2 cents for the wholesale price. We're now, because we couldn't lock in a reasonable rate, we actually are going to be hedging electric similar to what we do with gas through the consortium with those advisors. And the current rate, if we were to buy it today, would be 5.7 cents. Yes, sir.
Is there an extra zero in front of that 5.7?
There is, because it's the calculation that when you change it to kilowatt hours, then it becomes 5.7 cents. You are correct.
Got it.
Capacity, again, we talked about what capacity is, the revenue stream paid to wholesalers to generate that. We can control part of the capacity for us, and so there's the clearing price, which is what they buy the capacity at auction, and then there's our peak load contribution. And that's the part we've talked about before. When I've done presentations in the past, I've mentioned demand and like the demand cost at your house, and in our case now it's a capacity charge, but it's based on your high demand on the peak days. So during the summer, we'll get alerts that this is going to be a high demand day, and AEP and the wholesalers watch that and how we perform on those days. So the higher usage you have on those days, the more your capacity charge. So we really watch that when we do our, we work the 410s in the summer to try to save that electric by shutting the buildings down extra. We also shut the buildings off at 3 power-wise. So those tests, when they track our electric on those 5 days, the 5 biggest demand days, they take that and they use that to compute our capacity charge. We hope that all 5 of those days are before school starts. Last year, unfortunately, the 5th day was after school started on a day that was 90 degrees when school was in session. And even though we were out of school, we still had events and things going on at some of our buildings that we couldn't just shut the air down. So when you look at the chart on the right, the capacity clearing cost, the first part of that is $29.50 was our charge. That's now going up to $269 per unit. And so then when you look at our usage, the PLC value is what we controlled. Previous year, we had 1,649 kilowatts, and you see that had we kept that the same, not had that peak in school, we would have had an increase from 24,000 to 208,000. So that was our increase purely on the capacity charge and where we would have been had we kept the same. So even without that one bad day, we had 24,000 increase to $208,000 increase. And with those where we performed as a whole in the average of those 5 days, and that last day being when school was in session, our actual increase on the capacity side is expected to be about $334,000. As a whole, with the wholesale and the capacity, we're expecting to go up about 27% on our electric costs this year. Any questions? Sorry to end with the bad news. But I mentioned we saved a bunch of money since the last levy.
I mean, just converting that number, you've saved almost $1 million. Almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so what we can control, we do a good job and look at it. Honestly, that last day, we really debated, what do we do here? But we've always said we will not impact the student day with our energy program. And we really try hard not to do that. And that's kind of where we were at, is do we completely shut that down, let the buildings get a little bit warm that day, and we decided we needed to operate as normal with students in and given the temperatures we were at. And then with athletic events afterwards and other public events, people coming into our buildings afterwards, so.
Just out of curiosity, so you highlighted heritage relative to the Energy Star, and that, at least as I'm reading this, built in 2011. How do our newer buildings look in that regard?
All of our buildings are in that, and so our average is 92. So they're all doing very well. The reason I use heritage as an example is, and this is the value of our facilities committee, one of our engineers, Frank Eisenhower, worked with us to get Heritage Energy Star certified, just so we could make sure where we truly stand, and then we can compare. So the other elementaries compare very well. Like elementaries, built the same way, compare very similar. All of our buildings perform well, but that style of building also all perform similarly. We do have some, where they might have a range, and we always look at that, okay, why is that one performing different when they're the same building, they're within a couple miles of each other? But that's why we use Heritage, because it is certified. It takes a lot of work to get them certified, and Frank did that work for us. We didn't want to ask those volunteers to do all of our buildings. We just wanted to get one certified to see how we performed.
Got it. Okay. Good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
For the hard work he does.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if the news doesn't.
I was going to say, let's clap for that guy.
Yeah.
Let's clap for him because, obviously we talk a lot about academics and extremely important. That's our purpose, learning why we're here. But the operation side of this district and what we do to manage as a district and the people we have in the organization, it's unbelievable. Now, I got a full confession. Jeff will come to me on those hot summer days and say, he'll ask the question because, again, he's always got energy on his mind, but what should we do? What should we do? But he was right. So we cannot impact the student experience. So that was good. Also, I do want to just go back to that icky guy comment there Shane brought up. That was interesting. So a couple weeks ago, I was over at Liberty High School, I was honored to talk in 2 of the positive leadership classes. So one of the questions I asked the students, I said, where do you see yourself in 40 years, right? So you may think that, they may drill it down to like, I'm going to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, whatever, right? This is what they said, because this is what they value. So I wrote down the themes, and this is 2 classes, so probably 50-plus students. And so 3 themes resonated. So this is what they value. I want to have a great family. I want to be happy in my job. And then this one, set myself up for retirement. So they were doing the math on the third one. But it's just amazing, the reaction and just, with how the kids think. And I was like, thank your parents. Kudos to your parents for obviously doing a good job raising you. But so I just wanted to mention that. All right, so great things. Mr. Lester, thanks for mentioning this at the beginning, but a couple weeks ago, we held our annual State of the Schools at Olentangy High School. So again, it was just a great night where we're able to bring so many students and staff members from across the district to one place and really showcase all of the great things that go on in the district. So it was just a great night. This year we did a little bit different theme we did presentations, student performances in the auditorium, and obviously we had the show outside as far as all of the schools representing activities they were doing in the schools. But then we just did kind of a, what do you call it, Oprah style? Conversation. All right, conversation. Yeah, Oprah style. She did say that, by the way. But anyways, so we had 3 panels, and they represented district leadership team members and building principals, but really talked about the mission and really living the mission and what that means here in Olentangy. Obviously, district challenges, because we do have challenges that we face, and discuss those. And then thirdly, talked about the student experience and how important that is here, and how committed we are as adults to make sure that we are providing opportunities for student voice and obviously providing the best experience that we can for our students. All right, also want to highlight this partnership with Liberty Township. So it was just last Sunday they unveiled a sign recognizing all of the state champions from all 4 high schools' athletic teams. So you can see there, that's the initial sign. And we were talking about and adding up all those state championships. It's remarkable about how many state championships we have. But so somebody asked me the question, since I've been the superintendent almost now 2 years, 6 state team championships. It's unbelievable. So again, in that space, our parents obviously help to provide opportunities for kids, and we provide opportunities for kids here as well. There we go. I think I passed one up.
Skipped a couple, or one, yeah.
Dustin. I want to highlight. I know it's the clicker. So this is another cool event. I was not able to attend this night, but we did have representatives from the board there and district leadership team. But this is the annual Special Olympics student staff basketball game. So just have a few things to read about Special Olympics. So the mission of Olentangy School's Special Olympics is to provide year-round sports training and competition in a variety of Olympic-type sports for children and adults with intellectual disabilities, giving them continuing opportunities to develop physical fitness, demonstrate courage, experience joy, and participate in sharing of gifts, skills, and friendships with their families, other Special Olympics athletes, and the community. So the OASSO currently has 12 sports across the fall, winter, spring, and summer seasons. So this is all year. So currently 152 registered athletes. Students must be 8 years old, have a qualifying developmental disability, and have a medical form on file. And again, I just read kind of what that's about, and all of those things were experienced that night. And the students actually won, what was it, 50, what was the score, 50-something to?
Half it was 50-something, 56-7.
So anyways, the students won, so great for them.
The intervention team tried to make a comeback.
Yeah, no. So wanted to highlight that. we're wrapping up winter sports, so you can see again accolades from swimming and diving, wrestling. Liberty High School's hockey team was a regional qualifier. This Sunday, Orange boys basketball is in the Final Four, so they play up at Canton Sunday at noon. So I'm going to knock on wood, hopefully they have a good chance to win it all, but we'll see. And I want to congratulate two of our team state champions, Orange High School girls wrestling, so two consecutive the last 2 years, back-to-back state champions as a team, and then you can see individual placers there, and then also the Berlin High School competition cheer, first place in the state championship competition. So congratulations to both of them.
It's amazing that we just unveiled the sign on Sunday. And
That's right, and then we already have to add to it. Yeah, we're going to already have to add to it. So this popped into my inbox on Monday morning, and I think it might have been 2 weeks ago. And I wish we could just blow that picture up, because every Monday in our district leadership team, our first standing agenda item is celebrations. So we go around the table and talk about what we're celebrating, and it helps ground us for the week. But I always pick something from the district that I see the week before in the district. So an individual, group, team, school, whatever. Sometimes the Board of Education, you guys make it on the list. But that picture, just said it all. So congratulations to Orange High School above the noise. So first place there in the quarterfinals, move on to the semifinals. But in that picture, if you can zoom in on your computers, it's just unbelievable about, you can just see the joy in the students' reaction there. And again, we talk about academics a lot, but these experiences that we're able to provide for our kids and the opportunities that they have in the school, outside of the school, across the country, unbelievable. And it just creates such positive moments and memories that, obviously they will remember for a long time. So shout out to them. And congratulations. So back in the fall, we had 22 semifinalists, which we recognized at one of the schools. Well, I'm proud to say all 22 semifinalists are now 22 national merit finalists. So the top 1% of all seniors across the country. So congratulations to our 22 national merit finalists, and I'm sure we'll be reading about them for years to come and all that they accomplish. Superintendent action items. So first, I am making a recommendation to hire Stephanie Dabrico as the Director of Pupil Services. Just want to talk a little bit about that process. So when we're very intentional and thoughtful in the process when we post jobs. For this particular job, 15 applicants. We narrowed those applications down to interview 3, 2 finalists, and then selected Ms. Dabrico to serve as Director of Pupil Services. Ms. Dabrico has 17-plus years in Olentangy, first as a Pupil Services Supervisor, then as an Assistant Director, and has been a valued member of our Pupil Services Department and team, and comes to us serving in the new role with a lot of experience. So, she was selected on merit and based on the quality of work that she does in the organization, and obviously will continue to move that department forward. So I will be recommending one administrative replacement tonight. Also, you can see retirements up there. So it's that time of year for resignations and retirements, and we will, as our workforce becomes more seasoned and veteran, and the state continues to drop the retirement years of service, then we may see a little uptick in retirements. But I always say this: I want to thank all of these individuals for their contributions to Olentangy schools, the students they serve, and the families across the district. So in total, this represents 113 total years of service between these individuals to Olentangy schools, our students, and their families. So I want to wish them the best as they move on. Also, we have a few students for early graduation, so I'll be recommending that. Again, some student overnight and out-of-state field trips, and one student club that's on the agenda for tonight. Dr. Fetty will come back and discuss the feedback from the 26-27 district calendar, and then I will make that recommendation to approve our recommendation for that calendar. Mr. Sexton will also discuss the technology recommendation here, and so this technology recommendation will be to replace 5,200 student Chromebooks. Again, Mr. Sexton will discuss our leasing program and the reason that we do that, and obviously it's part of our technology strategic plan. A few items in the business management facilities section. You can see the flooring contract to Levitate Plus for $141,900. We're recommending an easement for drainage maintenance purposes on district-owned land at Berlin High School to the Board of the County Commissioners, so to Delaware County. So recommending that. And then we have, again, like every year, this is part of our capital plan. We have our tracks that are on replacement cycles, and this year it's Berkshire Middle School's turn to replace their track. Some important dates coming up, end of the third quarter. Doesn't it seem like just yesterday we were August starting school, and here we are the end of the third quarter, so wow. Teacher work day tomorrow, so no school. Our One Community Education Fair will be this Saturday, March 15th at Orange High School. Classified interview day, March 17th, and then you can see third quarter report cards, and then of course much deserved spring break, which everybody's excited about, starting Monday, March 24th, and then we will be back here April 10th at 6:30.
Any questions? I want to call out the student club here. It's the Best Buddies Club, which is pair students that have developmental disabilities or other disabilities with other students for social things. They were out in full force at the Special Olympics game, and it was a really powerful group. They're sitting right up front, and I think, if I'm correct, Liberty won the contest for the most students that were at that event, which was really, really nice. So glad to see that club from Liberty on here. They do a really nice job.
And it's awesome because, again, we had so many great students who help support in that space, and it's, we just have some great kids here. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Yes.
Mr. Meyer, the only thing you didn't mention was the level of skill that your students and staff have dancing at halftime.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people danced that. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Did you dance?
I did.
You did? Yeah, I missed that. You guys didn't report that back.
I did not report that.
They didn't report that back, but
I moved my shoulder.
Yeah.
great.
Cha-cha slide, right?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Jenkins.
Good evening, board members. What I want to talk about this evening, there's been a lot of talk in our legislature about the cash balance that schools have. And I want to specifically try to address the reasons behind the cash that we have. It is not haphazard. We think a lot about why we need to have cash. And you'll remember as a board that we've actually passed a specific policy. We passed board policy 6210.01. The things that we look at when we try to determine how much cash to have would be the predictability of revenues and expenses, any exposure to significant one-time outlays. For example, a year ago tomorrow, I probably shouldn't bring up what happened, but we had about a pushing $6 or $7 million insurance claim. Things like that occur. Obviously, that was insured, but we had to begin to fix things immediately, and we needed to have the cash to be able to do so. Availability of resources and other funds, liquidity of the general funds, and then assigned and committed fund balances, which have to do with encumbrances. And knowing that even though we might have liquid cash at the moment, that it is bound up in an encumbrance or another type of commitment. So in creating this policy, what we worked out was a sliding scale. We want to have in the current fiscal year at least 180 days of our expenses in reserve. We want to then have 150 if you go a fiscal year out, and you can see we go down by 30 days. At no point in time in a 5-year forecast do we ever want less than at least a couple months of expenses in reserve. So when you look at a 5-year forecast, it's really easy for your eyes to just go to line 7.020. Look that Olentangy is forecasting $201.2 million in carryover cash and make the decision that everything is just fine. Now, while this is not intended to create any type of panic, it is far more instructive as well to look at line 6.010, which most people would say, is your budget balanced? If your budget isn't balanced, or at least revenue exceeding or equal to expenses, then whatever reserves you have, you're obviously eating into those. Now, it's possible that there are certain years and certain circumstances that would cause that to occur, but when you start to see a line 6.010 that goes negative, normally what happens is it picks up in an exponential type of fashion, and it picks up pretty quickly. So while you could still say in 2026 we plan to have $170 million cash, you can see how quickly by 2027 and 2028 we run into a cash balance that just simply isn't sufficient. Okay, that's still 2 to 3 years out, no big deal, right? Well, these are the kinds of things that schools have to think about. Budgeting is a multi-year planning process for a couple, 3 reasons. Number one, we can't just flip a switch and start getting more revenue. We only are able to do so with the successful passage of a levy. Well, we can't just decide we want to start having levies anytime we want. We have to follow the Ohio Revised Code, and generally there's now only 2 times a year when levies can occur. Most people are obviously aware of the November general election. There's also the primary. If it's a presidential election year, it happens in March, but if it is a non-presidential, it's going to happen in May. Those are really your only 2 times that you can pass a levy. If you are successful, collections will not begin until the subsequent calendar year. So if we had a levy on the ballot this May, which obviously we don't even start to begin to collect on that levy until January and February of 2026. So if that happens, the other thing is you only get 1/2 of a collection cycle. Now, here's what I mean by that. Our calendar year, everyone knows, is January 1 to December 31, but a fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. If a levy, we use the hypothetical again, were to pass in May of 2025, we would get 1/2 of that levy's collections in January or February of 2026, meaning in fiscal year 2025-2026, we get half of what we would hope to get when the levy is a full cycle, and we would get the subsequent half in the next fiscal year. So the upshot of that is there's about at least a 3 to 6 month, if it passed in November, if not a 10 to 15 month lag in getting a full levy collection for whatever the levy passes. So the district requires that we are diligent, that we are making sure that we're planning and preparing in such a way that meets those challenges. Another couple things. You can't, if you have a bond issue, if the levy passes, you can't just snap your fingers and the building is constructed overnight. You usually have a 2 to 3 year period of time where you're designing and building the facility. Staffing. In order for us to plan appropriately for facilities to open, we need to know 2 and 3 years in advance exactly what that looks like. So when you put all of this together, a 3 to 5 year window on planning is about the minimum you would ever want to see. And the best analogy I can come up with is large ships are not going to fare very well in water that's 2 to 3 feet deep. They must have enough depth. They must have enough water beneath their keel in order for them not to run aground. The other thing about a large ship, it does not turn on a dime, nor can it stop on a dime. You have to plan ahead as somebody who is piloting a ship of that magnitude. Olentangy Schools is about a $500 million a year entity. Our 3 to 5 year planning, as mentioned, is about the minimum amount of time that we need to consider when we're looking at future revenues, future expenses, our planning for facilities and staff. So that hopefully goes towards the explanation of why a district that is currently forecasting carryover reserves that are healthy enough would even be thinking about 2 and 3 years out a levy, and certainly to clarify for our community, there's nothing on the ballot at this time, but we know, as Mr. Lester has talked about in multiple meetings, we know that we still face challenges as a district after last March's failure about what we're going to do to handle our growth, which comes with the buildings, the staffing, and all of the things that occur across this district. So questions about that brief explanation as to what cash balance adequacy looks like?
So the only question I would have is how will the impending budget discussions impact that 5th year? Because you're making assumptions. You made assumptions when you did this as 5 years ago. So what will that do with like cost sets, our floor?
So this current budget would be portraying the state funding formula as the governor's version currently exists. While it would be fully phased in, it would be looking at 2022 cost sets, which dramatically impact the base cost. Really what it dramatically impacts is the share of base cost, because even though the variables that impact the state's contribution are frozen at 2022, the variables that impact the local contribution continue to clip right along. And what I mean by that is our property valuation, which has increased since 2022, and our incomes, which have increased as a community since 2022, will be reflective of 2024, 2025. So what that does is that dramatically shifts. We saw statistics that if the current funding formula, which is the version that the governor has put forward, goes into law, right now the state contributes about 38% statewide of the funding formula. That will drop to just barely above 30% if those cost sets aren't adjusted and some other factors aren't adjusted. So that's a long-winded way of saying this budget and what we've asked our legislators for, which is we absolutely want it to be fully phased in. We want those cost sets to be adjusted at least to 2024. We've actually proposed a type of inflationary adjustment. But then finally, for Olentangy's sake, it is also critical that the state minimum threshold of 10% is also adjusted. We know that we will always be driven as a district to whatever that threshold is. If it's 10, we're going to over time be driven to 10. If it's 15, we're going to over time be driven to 15. So we've kind of targeted a 15 to 20%. We certainly would prefer 20. That's the level of funding that we would need in order for, we've said many times in this particular venue, we want our funding to per pupil be at least the equivalent of what non-publics get in auxiliary and administrative funding, which is about $1,400 per pupil. So if we get the things that we're asking for, it would be dramatic local property tax relief, because it would go a very, very long way to making up a lot of what we see here. I cannot in any way, shape, or form say that a future levy would be off the table if we get what we're asking for in the state funding formula. We're growing too fast. Those sorts of things are just already occurring. But it's going to dramatically impact what we have to ask our community for. So we've been saying, where Mr. Meyer and I have been talking, that one of the quickest ways to get local property tax relief is to continue to ask our state legislators to make the funding formula such that it gives Olentangy what it needs as a very high-performing, high-growth school district.
So it's still true what Mr. Rafe said 3 years ago, that fair school funding is property tax relief for Olentangy taxpayers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the quickest way right now for our community to try to leverage and provide their feedback and input to the folks who are developing the budget that will impact their local tax contribution in our next upcoming levy, whenever we decide that will be.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
There are action items, just real quick, will also be considered as usual as a consent agenda. You can see the different donations that we have, the minutes from the February 20th meeting, and that would be it. And I do not have any participation forms.
All right, thank you. So we have 4 discussion items tonight. The first one is Berlin Township Buckeye Swim TIF. So Mr. and Mrs. Carr. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I'm Lori Carr, just here to talk a little bit about what we have going to bring a pool into the district. I am the owner of Buckeye Swimming, and we are multifaceted. We have Buckeye Swim School, which we operate in Powell. We opened that in April of 2023. Average about 850 students a week in swim lessons. We created 3 full-time positions and 45 part-time positions there. Have a lot of Olentangy School students employed with us. We also just won a contract with Columbus School for Girls, and we'll be providing their curriculum for them for spring swim lessons for their pre-K through 6th grade students. I also operate Buckeye Swim Club, which leases 2 locations in Columbus, one at the Columbus North Sports Club, and the other at Buckeye Swim School in Powell. We have about 300 kids on our team at any given time, and the majority of our swimmers have always attended Olentangy schools since we moved to Columbus North. Our staff includes over 14 coaches. We have 16 on our staff right now. I live in the district. My husband and I live in the district. Both our kids attended school K through 12. That was a while ago. I graduated from the Ohio State University where I swam, got a degree in mathematics, spent 5 years at Olentangy Orange as a full-time sub, teaching kids that were slated back in the OGT days not to pass OGT, a little bit about math and getting their math skills shored up. Spent 8 years at Liberty as the head coach of Olentangy Liberty Swim and Dive, both the girls and boys team, and then did a year interim at Olentangy High School when they could not find a coach. 8 years experience leading Learn to Swim. Rick here is my business finance driver for this whole project. This started as a bubbled pool way back when we bought this land. And we just could not get it off the ground, let it sit for a bit. COVID rolled around. We were all bored sitting at home. I'm like, make this happen. And this is the iteration that we've come up with. And while we were doing it, we came across empty property in Powell. And we were able to successfully lease that and open that. It has been a huge driver of how we know that this next project will work. We're full, we're perpetually full. We've been full since a few months after we opened. We're constantly trying to find more space for these swimmers. We also host high school swim meets, small team meets there, and Worthington Special Olympics, interestingly enough, because they got kicked out of their pool in COVID. The Columbus North Sports Club is the other facility we run. We were able to successfully negotiate leasing that facility from the owners in another COVID-era thing for us. And we were able to accommodate a lot of kids in that era. And now we accommodate Tree of Life High School and middle school swim teams, our Buckeye Swim Club, aquatic adventures, scuba classes, and lifeguard training. A little bit about why we're here. This is the Peach Blow Aquatic Center in its current iteration. This is what we plan to build. We purchased 10 acres in 2014 before there were any elementary schools on the road. We have final development approval through Berlin Township for this facility. It is a separate 30-foot by 60-foot teaching pool. That's the one off to the left. And then a competitive training facility of 25 yards by 25 meters. If you've been to Upper Arlington's high school pool, very similar to that, not quite as much seating because we were limited in our size of our building. We did try one iteration with seating above, and that did not fly with the township. We listened a lot to the schools and the coaches as to what they wanted for this. And the team room that's off the pool is part of that. It was able to get us a little bit more seating on the pool deck, a little bit more seating for swimmers during competitions so that we could host small meets like sectionals, OCCs, high school dual meets. Buckeye Swim Team, Buckeye Swim School will operate out of that, and it is our hope, should we be successful tonight, that we have an agreement in place to have all 4 high school teams in there. We've got a soft agreement with the schools as to what time. We also have time during the day should the PE classes ever want to come in. This is a better view of it. You'll see one thing we did is individual changing rooms, individual bathrooms. So there's no locker rooms in this facility. There are a couple of individual family rooms off the pool deck as well. But that's to the right of that picture is the main competition pool and training pool. It's 10 lanes plus a smaller lane, so it's like 10 2/3 lanes is how we have this set up, with that smaller lane being available either for training or some lessons. This is just an overview of where the schools sit in relation to the project. And then our TIF agreement summary with the schools for the swim teams. We've basically got morning time before school starts available. We have all 10 lanes 3 days a week. Our swim club does use 4 to 5 lanes 2 days a week for their morning practices, so that's why that looks different from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then the schools ask for the entire facility up to 5 o'clock after school. They have that in this agreement. Saturdays after 1 o'clock, the entire facility for either training or swim meets. And then Fridays as agreed upon before each swim season. The cost is our cost. So what you see there is whatever our lifeguard cost is to cover the lifeguards there. That's it. It's 1.25 because that covers our payroll costs for those lifeguards as well. So if we're paying a guard, typically you're paying between $15 to $20 an hour right now. But if we have a guard that says, I want to lifeguard for the school at minimum wage, we'll pay him minimum wage, and that's what we'll be charging you. So there's some flexibility there for the cost to the schools, but it will certainly save the schools a lot of money from what you're paying now at the facilities that you're at. Having been on the other side of it as a coach, where I've been in some of our facilities where we haven't been very welcome, your schools will be welcome in this facility. This is where we want them to be. And we would meet with the school each year to make sure that we have everything in place for what the school needs for that year. That's it.
All right. So this is a discussion item, so we're open for discussion. If anyone has any questions or comments or.
I just think this is a great example of a private-public partnership that works. It meets a great need in the district for pool capacity in a way that makes sense for everybody. So I think it's great.
Do you have an idea of, as you know, to that point, if we were, or how much, maybe someone here can answer, I don't know, how much would we pay for access to a lane otherwise?
It varies. I think, Ryan, or you have an idea. But Mount Carmel charges $30 an hour a lane, right? Yeah. And we're going to need basically 2 lifeguards during, so it's a lot less.
Because that's, you said per lane, right?
Yeah, that's per lane. So if they're renting 6 lanes, that's $180 an hour.
Yeah.
For Mount Carmel. That's a good example. The Y, I think, is a little less. They're probably closer to the 20 range, but I'm not privy to what that is.
It's hard to believe 2 years ago. I think we were over there for a music lesson, and you said, take a look at what we've done. It's beautiful. And remind me again of the student yield. How many new students will we get from this facility?
This is a commercial TIF, so we'll get no new students to educate.
So we'll have 0 students from the development, and we'll save money. So this is a home run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the important point to keep in mind, is whenever we consider a TIF, we have to be very thoughtful because it is impacting the tax dollars to the district. But those dollars are not the only costs, right? There's a lot of other things that we have to keep in mind. One is certainly development of the area, and that area is exploding. You said there were no elementary schools there originally, and now there's however many that you have up on the screen. So we have to keep that in mind. And then those additional costs that are racking up over time of paying for lanes, but also really the sense of community that can come with being in this location, having students from all the schools together and able to do that. So I think that there's a lot of ways that this is, there are some unseen benefits that we're able to realize, and also good, partnership with the other local municipalities.
Mr. Lester, I do have one question. Do you have room on the walls for like state championship banners?
Absolutely. I'm kind of upset with the Liberty Township people because they only have team state champions. He's heard it so much from me. Team state champions on that thing. And I think the backside should be full of all the swimmers and divers that have won states.
They did discuss that, but obviously we need a big, 4 billboards.
Electronic billboard.
Yeah, electronic was.
Right. Between track and swimming.
They did not want to take away from, obviously, all the individual accomplishments, which we have many across the district over the years, so, yeah.
So we're not going in just this moment. We have a couple more discussion items. We will be going into executive session later to discuss this a little bit more fully, and then we will be reconvening to take action on this at that point. So thank you. Any other questions, comments before we go? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Sexton, for the technology replacement discussion.
All right, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about tech replacements, right? It's this time of year, right? This particular one is one piece of the puzzle. So this is just Chromebooks. So we'll have some more smaller items coming in, but this is the bulk of what we're replacing. So real quick, so Chromebooks, student use only, right? These are not for staff. The 5200 number came from 2 different pieces. We have 4100-ish falling off, so going back. So these are leases. So what we do is we do competitive bidding for the selling of those back. Sometimes it makes sense to hand them back to HP, and in lieu of what's called a balloon payment at the end of this, So it's whatever we get the most money back for. So 4,100 coming off, 5,200 coming on, right? So why 5,200, right? Well, this was 5 years ago, right? So we've grown substantially since then. So this is an account for new students. What we do there is some of these 5,200s are for our reserves, but we put the newest, the latest and greatest out in the hands of the kids, and we take some older ones we have and use those as our reserves. Okay. A couple things that are kind of behind the scenes on this. This isn't just Chromebooks. Okay, so this order also includes blue light screen protectors, so it helps protect the devices from damage, but it's also good for the kids that are on these devices for a substantial amount of time. Beyond this, it also can include carts where needed. We have a large number of older carts that we've been trying to replace over the years that are damaged and need repair. So we've been replacing some of those. Charging stations for the classrooms in case the batteries die or kids just want to charge other devices. Lockable cabinets, and of course the warranty, right? And this is the warranty is a big piece of this, and the intent there is to not be repairing all of these with the service desk, and to have those individuals out in the buildings helping staff, helping students with any issues they have. So happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? I'm just curious, especially with the Chromebooks. I know a number of people buy them, for their students. Have we seen over time, have you mapped it relative to the student growth? Are we seeing the same rough percentage of people that are taking advantage, or not taking advantage, but are using school Chromebooks versus not, or is that number changing at all?
Yeah, it changes from year to year. Some buildings do have different strategies about promoting that and saying, hey, please bring it. What we do is we provide enough so that we can fill that gap of students that don't. And we we try to provide a certain percentage to buildings. For example, the high schools, 65% is that magic coverage number. And then students bringing devices fill up the other 35.
Has that number shrunk over time? So 5 years ago, X number of kids brought their own, and now more percentage, or?
Yeah, it does. It does increase the number of students bringing devices. But what we also see too is students typically have 3 devices. We can tell that from our data in the wireless. And our wireless numbers just continue to grow and grow, and the capacity that's on there. So kids have their phone attached to the wireless, usually have a tablet or other device, and then their personal device. So they're not just bringing just their one device. So.
Don't answer this question, but I'm just wondering what percent, because how all thinking about screen time, right? We understand the research is coming out and trying to minimize. So I'm curious how sensitive we can be with our curriculum about screen time. And that's not a question you can answer because there's no way to know. I'm guessing different classes have more time on screen. So it's just important to figure out ways, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, there needs to be a balance. So I'm a tech guy, but you just don't need to use technology, for a lot of things. But in this case, a lot of our digital, curriculum is delivered this way, and it's what we need to at least fill that gap for them.
And even state testing is done on the computers, right? That's how we have to do it for the state.
Yeah, April's coming, and That's
From
a good
starting
ti-
in third grade, right? Or
that's
even
a-
earlier?
Yes, that's such a good time with trying to move things around and where buildings, hey, we're getting it from this department or moving from here and having the high schools. I remember it wasn't that long ago where we're pulling up the truck and putting carts in it and shipping them, between the buildings. So thank goodness those days are gone. So.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Sexton.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll now move on to Dr. Fetty.
Clapping for Rob. Good evening. It has been over the statutory 30 days that we've gathered public feedback on the 2026-27 school calendar. We had over 1,000 responses, about 2/3 of which were from the community. The rest, obviously, staff. So our student year that we're proposing on the exhibit tonight would begin on August 20th. 79% of our respondents were satisfied with that date. Thanksgiving break, you can see there, following the standard pattern, 87% satisfied, and the year ending on May 27th. We presented two different winter break and spring break scenarios for community feedback. Option A in both scenarios was the preferred option from those providing feedback. Winter break beginning December 21st and continuing through a teacher workday on January 4th. And spring break beginning on March 26th with a conference exchange day, and then continuing through April 2nd. Both of those options, again, are in that 60% range. So the recommendation for you tonight is we're asking that you adopt the exhibit as presented with winter break and the spring break options reflected. A couple other notes that you'll see on the exhibit. We added a note for the first day of school for preschool students to begin on Tuesday, August 25th. Traditionally, as we had this year, we start our preschool students on the same day as everyone else. But with our growth, it continues to tax our transportation department further and further. So this gives us the ability to focus on our kindergarten students the first couple of days, who are our most vulnerable riders as they're learning school, and then bring on preschool on their first day on the following Tuesday. Also noting our last day for seniors being May 14th, which would be the Friday before graduation that year. And the last day for pre-K students is May 26th, which is, our elementary schools do a 2-hour early release on the last day of school. So pre-K has always ended a day before, but just being transparent with those dates here on this calendar. Are there any questions on the calendar or the process that we use?
I always just think it's amazing how many people respond to this. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, and these numbers were very consistent with the responses that we saw last year.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's the #1 search on our website, school calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Not board bios?
No.
Now that you've planted the seed, maybe though. All right, is it all right if I move on then to the next item here? Not my ikigai, but I do spend some time with the board policy. Nope, yeah, only had this slide. So the committee met on February 28th. So thank you to the committee members on the board for that meeting. I personally want to apologize for the size of this exhibit. What you see here reflects Neola's recommended changes from October of last calendar year. Plus, we waited to get all the legislative changes at the end of December, all into an exhibit. So you will notice, with the size of this exhibit, if you look at policy 2260 and policy 2265, 2260 is a policy that we adopted back in the fall to respond to other legislation. So at that time, so we have the new legislation, but like 2265 is Neola's recommended policy to address that legislation, protecting individual beliefs, affiliations, ideals, and principles of political movements and ideology. It's the short title they came up with there. But so we had worked our policy adjustment into existing policy to comply with state law. Then Neola came out and said it would be best if you have your own policy on that matter. So the revision here is removing the change that we added back in the fall to 2260 and just reflecting that in its own policy number. There are lots of other House bills and Senate bills that are reflected in here. Senate Bill 29, House Bill 8 are two major ones that have driven a lot of policy change. So this is the first reading for feedback, for public feedback, for your feedback. Are there any questions that you've seen on the exhibit so far that I can answer right now, or anything you'd like me to report on at the next meeting when we bring it back for adoption?
I think just to note that, you said that these are out for feedback, so they're all on our district website under the board tab, if anybody wants to look up the policy changes or, make comments.
Thank you.
I know we sometimes get feedback from staff, sometimes from the
Yep.
community, so that's what this is
People
for.
do pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And I will say, there is a lot here.
Yeah.
And it can be a little confusing, I think, especially as you're going through it with the way that it's moving and all of that. So if people have questions,
They can certainly reach out to me, absolutely. Unless you wanted them to call you.
Ms. Schreiber is free to as well. Yeah,
We, as the policy committee, could answer
Yeah.
those questions, but I will be glad to take them. It
Yeah,
is
no,
my
I
job.
mean, we went through all of these, line by line, honestly, looking at them, and it is just sometimes hard to parse. You've got to have a bit of a sense for everything. So certainly, if people have questions, we're always happy to. You can reach out to us, or you can reach out to Jack, and certainly thank Chris Mazzola, the chair of the policy committee,
Yes.
who put in a lot of work on that.
Absolutely. Chris is valuable.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I will now entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121-22G8, for negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance with respect to Revised Code Section 5709.73B, my favorite subsection of the Revised Code. So, can I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
And then just for discussion, I'll note that we will be coming back to vote on an item here. So with that, Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll. At your leisure.
Lieutenant, at your leisure.
Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes, all right, we will be back. We'll now reconvene us into open session. So the first action item we have is a board action item, a resolution to approve a TIF compensation agreement and deed covenant, which we discussed in our discussion item. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, other than just thank you again for the presentation, I appreciate it. All right, Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Abstain.
All right, Mr. Jenkins, please call the treasurer consent action items.
Board members, as mentioned in the presentation, I only have 2 items tonight, but I'm asking you to consider both with one single motion and action. Item A is the recommended approval of the donations that are listed, and then item B would be the recommended approval of the meeting minutes from February 20th. These could be considered as one single motion and vote unless somebody would like to pull them out and discuss them separately.
And I'm not going to pull any of these out. These are some good meeting minutes. So, okay, hearing no interest in that, can I have a motion to approve these as a consent action item?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Jenkins?
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Meyer, please present the superintendent consent action items.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Board members, I recommend approval of the following superintendent consent action items A through I. A, specific human resource items administrative. B, specific human resource items certified staff. C, specific human resource items supplementals. D, specific human resource items classified staff. E, students for early graduation. F, academic items, which again, those are student trips and the student club request. G, the 2026-2027 district school calendar. H, technology items, the purchase of Chromebooks. And I, business management and facility items that were noted in my superintendent report. I'm asking you to approve these items by one single action and vote unless you'd like to discuss any of these items separately.
Would anyone like to discuss any of these items separately?
No.
All right, I'll just note before we go into this that we've put out Ms. Dabrico as the Director of People Services to a separate action item, so that will be our next item. This is voting on everything else. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? I think I asked, nobody wanted to point any of these out, I think. Okay. All right, any discussion? All right, Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Dabrico, I think, is leaving the room, so we'll give him a minute. All right, Mr. Meyer, do you want to present your final superintendent action item?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Lester. Board members, I recommend approval of A, specific human resource item administrative, which is a 3-year contract for Stephanie Dabrico as Director of Pupil Services, as well as 30 transition days.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I just want to appreciate that that Mr. Meyer explained the process and that I'm confident that this was an impartial and merit-based recommendation.
Thank you.
And I'll also say I ran into some teachers in the district who work in one of our SLCs. They've worked here for a number of years, and they approached me yesterday with excitement and enthusiasm, singing Ms. Dabrico's praises that she really knows what she's doing. So.
And I think that's certainly been evident from the years of presentations, so and we've seen that in action, to be sure. All right, can I have, so we did a motion, right, already?
And then we got our discussion.
We got our discussion. It's been a long meeting. Okay, Mr. Jenkins.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes. All right, congratulations. We will now entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment or compensation of a public employee. I will note that after this, we will not be coming back to take any substantive action items. So can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Jenkins.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
All right. It is 9:11 p.m. We are returning from executive session. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
Ms. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mr. Lester, yes. Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned.
I'm abstaining.